The quiet sounds of smacking and kissing filled the small room that had been converted from an office into a makeshift bedroom. The stunningly beautiful woman was in her late 30s. Her hair was naturally brown, but she dyed it a lighter shade of red. She was barely 157 centimeters tall and wore very high heels. Her body was in excellent shape, toned and muscular, like an athlete or dancer. Her legs were amazing, slender thighs, graceful calves that flowed into slender ankles and elegant, sexy feet. Her hands were also exquisite, and on her finger shone a diamond engagement ring and a gold ring symbolizing her marriage. Her breasts were large, emphasized by artificial methods. The young man with her was a college football player. His name was Jefferson Davis Jackson, or Jeff for short. He was tall 193 centimeters, with light brown hair. His body seemed to be carved from stone, toned by grueling training, football training, and taking drugs to increase stamina. "Baby, why don't you have this glass of champagne?" The guy enjoyed the view. She was one of the most beautiful trophy wives that rich university graduates brought to these gambler pleasure parties, and the guy intended to get the most out of her. "Janet, you're the best thing in my life, baby," he said, taking a long sip of champagne. "Oh, thanks, Jeff." She simply loved having sex with these young students, and this was her second lover of the evening. He was one of her absolute favorites, and she couldn't wait for them to have sex again. "Good champagne?" she asked, pouring him another full glass. "Have a drink, baby, and then you can have sex with me." He hadn't had sex in 4 days, since Head had sex with her, almost without her consent, even though she'd been flirting with him. What was her name? Candy flashed through his head. The thought that she was the girlfriend of some nerd who, by the way, was now serving drinks at this party inflamed his desire even more. He loved having sex with other men's women, enjoying their helplessness before his dominant, powerful masculinity. After having sex with Janet, the guy collapsed with all his weight. Janet said, "Okay, honey, rise up a little." Jeff didn't move. The woman was strong, but even pressing hard, she could only roll him to one side. He fell off the bed onto the floor. Janet looked down and saw that he was not moving or breathing. "Hey, are you okay?" she asked worriedly, shaking his shoulder. There was no answer. She felt her pulse nothing. Realizing what was happening, she panicked. "Help!" she screamed. The country club where the event took place had nothing in common with the elite private club Heritage Cloisters. It was a simple building with a spacious meeting room, similar to a Kiwanis club, and several small rooms along one side, which that night were used as bedrooms for the wives of alumni who indulged in sexual pleasures with the football players. Outside, there was a swimming pool, barbecue area with picnic tables and shelters. It was impossible to see the golf course in the darkness, but it extended beyond the clubhouse. The course was irrigated by water from a large river, or rather a wide stream, that flowed through the area, but because of the agricultural fertilizers that flowed into the reservoir, the area was considered one of the best golf courses in the state. The party was attended by 20 influential university alumni, 6 wives, and 14 football players. Of course, there were no coaches or other university officials at this unofficial event. Tom Riordan, the husband of Janet, who at that moment was having a hot time with Jeff Jackson, approached the younger university graduate. "Hello, Philip," he said. "This is your first private alumni party with football players, right?" "Yes, sir," Philip answered. He got rich by selling his computer company to a larger competitor, and a couple of months ago, he made his first major contribution to the university. "Great, and just call me Tom. We're all equal here, not big donors like Henry Wargrave or J.P. Goldman," Tom said. "Did you bring 100 bills, as I asked?" "Yes, $2,000, Philip answered. "Great, me too," Tom nodded. "Now 3 guys are finishing having sex with our wives. For now, we are waiting for them. As soon as they finish, we will call it a night." "So what are we going to do?" Philip asked curiously. Tom spoke with an intonation as if he was reporting on a military operation, but still softening his voice. "Everyone will say goodbye to each other, Then we will send all the players inside the club and close the door behind them. After that, we graduates will throw wads of green band notes into the pool and leave. Only the players will stay here, and after we leave, they can go out and collect the money. They usually force the freshmen to jump into the pool for band notes and then divide the loot evenly. Wow. Doesn't it bother you that your wife is sleeping with these players? Asked Philip, still digesting what was happening and not even fully realizing the illegal background of the cash distributions. Are you kidding? Tom chuckled. My wife Janet just loves these parties. She looks forward to each new one. And the other wives who are present here came precisely to have sex with these athletes. This is their joy in life, and the guys just have a blast. What young student wouldn't love getting a gorgeous trophy wife like Janet or the rest? And husbands are okay with this too, Tom continued. Janet and I change partners, and some other couples are in open marriages. Philip, you'd be surprised how many couples in our area engage in partner swapping. Wow, said Philip. Looks like I still have a lot to learn. Tom laughed loudly. Oh yeah, buddy, and wait until you get invited to one of University President Wellman's private parties. His wife just got fired, but his sentence was interrupted by sharp gestures from his wife Janet. She stood at the entrance to the club, frantically waving her arms, attracting her husband's attention. Tom, come here, quickly, she called, trying to keep her voice low. What happened, dear, and why aren't you dressed? Tom asked, still not understanding the seriousness of the situation. Come, damn it, come, Janet screamed hysterically, her face turning red with panic and anger. Now almost everyone was looking at her. Damn it, Janet, what the hell do you want? Tom began to say irritably, but she had already grabbed his hand and literally dragged him into the building. Oh my God, bitch, what's wrong with you? Tom got angry. You're a complete idiot, Tom, Janet snapped. Jeff is dead. What? Tom was dumbfounded. He collapsed and is not breathing. Can you fucking move? Tom's eyes widened in shock. He turned to Philip, who had followed him inside, and said quickly, Call Dr. Keene. Keep everyone else outside, especially the players. Then he hurried after his wife to her room. There on the floor lay Jeff Jackson. Philip and Dr. Keene soon arrived. The doctor knelt down, checked the pulse, then raised the guy's head, tilted it back, and checked his breathing. After that, he looked into his eyes and turned to the door, where several graduates had already gathered, including other wives, alarmed by the noise. He's dead. At 4 o'clock in the morning, Tanya Perlman called me. We have a body on Dorojnaya too, she said. Naked young man, possibly a college student. Forensics are on their way. I'll be there in a minute, I replied. I hurriedly got dressed, put on thick work trousers and heavy shoes. They are not really boots, but they are convenient for working on the street and examining crime scenes. It was early Saturday morning, late August. A week later, classes at the university began. Residence halls opened on Monday and students will begin arriving soon. The first football match of the season was an away match and was scheduled to take place in a week next Saturday. The city was preparing for an influx of tens of thousands of students, and I was always amazed at how it seemed to blossom after the summer lull. Route 2 ran east-west along the southern border of the county. Further south was Coltrane County, on the way to the central part of the state and the city of Midtown. The road was an ordinary country road, barely paved and rarely used, mainly by local farmers. I think I've only driven through it once. When I got to the scene, detectives Martin Nash and Diana Torres, Tanya Perlman, and the forensic team, 2 paramedics and 3 patrolmen, Pete Feely, Rookie Johnson, and Patrolman Hicks, were already there. God, are we having a detective convention? Martin, Diana, I greeted them. What do you have, Perlman? Good morning to you too, Lieutenant, Tanya Perlman said with a slight grin. You will definitely like this case. It's just your thing. A dirt farm road running north-south crossed Road 2 just a few meters away. The county line was literally 3 feet south of Route 2, so the southern direction of the road led immediately into Coltrane County, and the northern direction led to farmhouses about a mile away on a slight rise. Along the road, there was an irrigation canal running to the west. At the intersection with Dorojnaya 2, it expanded into a spillway, which was a deep hole. Looking inside in the light of powerful lanterns, I saw that the body of a young man was lying on his left side. He was white, completely naked, and showed no signs of violence. However, my attention was immediately drawn to his intimate area. "Lieutenant, why do all your victims die during sex?" Tanya Perlman faked me out. "I see, Perlman," I answered, playing along with her. "It seems that this is already a typical picture for your district. And what did the crime lab find there?" "For now, a little," Tanya said. "There are no visible injuries on the body. Patrolman Hicks was the first to arrive, along with Johnson. Hicks went down into the ravine to check if the guy was alive, while Johnson searched the area for tire marks, shoe marks, and clothing. He cordoned off the southern road because there are tire tracks there, but other than that we didn't find anything." "Patrolman Johnson," I said, "have you entered Coltrane County?" "I could only shine a flashlight on it, but I didn't go far," Johnson replied. I directed the flashlight down the road and saw a chain of his footprints that reached the limit of visibility. "I was careful not to trample on possible evidence," he added. "Good job, Johnson." I nodded and returned to the place where the body was. "Anything suspicious near the ravine?" "Nothing, sir," Johnson replied. "Not a single obvious trace." Hicks also looked around before going downstairs. "I didn't notice anything, sir," Hicks confirmed. "I tried to be careful, but I needed to check if the guy was alive." "You did absolutely the right thing. Both," I said. "Okay, Tanya, if the criminologists are finished, let's take the body upstairs so you can examine it properly." The process was labor-intensive, but with the help of everyone present, including myself, we were able to pull the 240-pound dead young man out of the ditch. "Not a single mark, Lieutenant," said one of the ambulance officers. "I noticed from his rank insignia that he was a full-fledged paramedic, the police equivalent of a sergeant. Of course, in addition to his years of experience in emergency medical services, he also had to have the appropriate education and certifications." "Any guesses what killed him, paramedic?" I asked. "No, sir," he replied. "There are a few marks on the arms and legs, but they are not fresh and do not appear to be serious enough to cause death." A thought struck me. "You know, it seems to me that he could be a football player," I said. "That would explain the markings, as well as his athletic, muscular build. The varsity football team just finished summer training camp, and the season starts next weekend. Martin, this might help us identify him faster. Check with the university police when we get back to town and see if they have any missing athletes." "Yes, sir," replied Martin Nash. He photographed the body on his mobile phone and sent the image to headquarters with a message that the identification procedure had begun. Ah, the wonders of modern technology. Speaking of technology, I pulled out my phone and called Britt Maxwell from the university police, waking her up and asking her to come to the scene with her SBI Reserve Agent ID. Meanwhile, Tanya Perlman was in a ditch that was taller than she was. I carefully went downstairs and began to look for evidence. "Nothing," said Tanya. "Not a drop, not a scrap of fabric." "This is strange," I remarked, looking at the dent in the soft soil where the body hit. I pointed my finger at her. "He landed exactly as we found him. No movement, no scratches on the ground, no attempts to get up. This means he was already dead when they brought him here. Ah, and this reminds me of something." I climbed out of the ditch, and Pete Feely helped Tanya back up. It was still dark, but the first rays of dawn were already breaking through on the eastern horizon. "Everyone, tell me, how did the police find out that there was a body in the ditch?" I asked loudly. "I can answer," said a voice. It was Mr. Colburn, owner of a farm north of here. He stood near the ambulance, watching us. "I saw the lights when I left the house. I took out binoculars to see what was happening and saw car headlights and flashlights. I thought it might be teenagers having fun or a deal, so I called the police. and when the first patrol arrived, I went down and told them what I saw. "Thank you, sir," I said. "Hicks, Johnson, did you notice anything?" "No, sir," Hicks replied. "We just stumbled upon it fortunately. We parked here at the intersection, started looking around the area, and I accidentally shined a light into the ditch." "Yes," I said. "Successful. Very successful." I turned to Mr. Colburn. "Thank you for your help. You can go home. Paramedics take the body to the police morgue. Let them take fingerprints and begin a search for an identity, and the results will be reported to Detective Nash, who is now in charge of this case, whether he likes it or not." I looked at Martin, but he didn't show it. He just nodded silently. "Tanya, did your laboratory take tire prints from a dirt road?" I asked. "They are doing it now," she replied. I looked over to where the woman was already pouring plaster to create a cast. Before that, she photographed the tracks in infrared and normal light. Ah, technology. At that moment, a car pulled up. It was Britt Maxwell. "Torres, keep working with Nash. It will be great practice for you," I said as Britt approached me. "Now, everyone else, turn around while Captain Maxwell and I take a stroll into Coltrane County." As we walked down the road, I heard Tanya behind me say, "Congratulations, Martin. It's a big deal to receive such an investigation." As we walked along the dirt road, I brought Britt up to date and ended with, "I wanted you to come with me because we represent the state, and if the Coltrane County Sheriff shows up to see what we're doing here, we'll need our SBI IDs. "They'll still be mad," Britt said. "They hate us. More precisely, they hate you, the city and district police." "Why is this?" I asked, examining the tire tracks on the road. "They are small, rural. There are only 10,000 people in the area at most," Britt answered. "They don't have the resources we have." She paused and then added mockingly, "And they don't have an iron crowbar." "But now they have me," I said. "Watch that irrigation canal." "What exactly are we looking for?" she asked. "The clothes of the deceased," I answered. We walked about half a mile, and I turned around and looked back. The blue lights of our patrol cars were barely visible in the distance. I could already make out the road without a flashlight. The dawn was getting brighter. I stopped when I noticed many tire tracks, some going in circles, but only one set heading north. I also saw many footprints leading to the ditch. At this point, Britt exclaimed, "Here's something." In the ditch lay a red polo shirt, white linen shorts, and tennis shoes. Very casual wear. I quickly scanned the area for footprints and saw light footprints. Next to the crumpled clothes were depressions in the wet mud, as if a body had been lying there. There were heavy boot marks around the depression, although they were only partially imprinted. "Britt, who can we call to inspect and pack these things without involving SBI?" I asked, going down into the ditch. I noticed that the clothes were not very soiled, which meant that they were not on the body of the deceased, but had been thrown separately. "Maybe someone from the university police?" Britt suggested. "But apart from me, they also have no jurisdiction here." "Damn," I muttered when I saw the headlights of cars approaching from the south. "They are already here. There is little time." I quickly photographed the find and examined the clothes. No ID, no wallet. I climbed out of the ditch just as two Coltrane County Sheriff's cars pulled up. When they saw us, they turned on their blue flashing lights and blinded us with powerful headlights. "And who are you exactly?" the sheriff asked, getting out of the first car. He was a little plump, but not too much, and his mustache had streaks of gray. I had met him before, so I knew this, although now I could only see his silhouette. The sheriff's deputy also got out of the first car. Young, clean-shaven, with a slightly too fresh face, but I knew that he was far from a newcomer. Two more deputies exited the second car, but remained behind the open doors, taking up fighting positions. "We're SBI, Sheriff," I said in my firmest voice. Britt and I raised our IDs with our left hands, leaving our right free in case we had to reach for a weapon. With Coltrane County Sheriff, it's always best to be prepared for anything. The The sheriff and his deputy removed their hands from their holsters, but the two behind them did not change their stance and did not step out from behind the car doors. "We're investigating a murder that happened over there, just across the border from your county," I said. "It looks like these are the clothes of the deceased." "Oh, really?" the sheriff drawled lazily. "And it didn't even occur to you to warn me before entering my district, right?" "We just found the body. We didn't even have time to call you," I said. "Sheriff, can we carefully examine the clothes?" Britt asked. "But I won't allow you to do this," the sheriff hissed with a threatening note in his voice. "Deputy Straight, call our forensics team by 8 in the morning." The deputy went to the car and radioed. "Sheriff, you know that time is against us." Britt began, but I lightly touched her shoulder to stop her. The sheriff straightened his shoulders, showing feigned indignation. "Bitch, don't tell me about my district. Do you understand, you creature?" he growled. "I said that my people will examine the evidence, and I will do it when I want. Can you hear me, fool?" He went down to the ditch and examined the ground. "Sheriff, is there a reason why you don't want to help us solve the murder?" I asked. "You state bitches think you can just walk into my district and do as you please, huh?" I noticed that he deliberately walks back and forth, destroying tracks on the ground. "Don't answer him, Captain," I said. "We're leaving." I turned around and walked back along the road towards the county line. Luckily, Britt immediately followed me. "Hey, I didn't say you bitches could leave," the sheriff barked. I stopped and turned around, my hand hovering near my holster. "What will you do, Sheriff? Shoot us in the back?" I asked coldly. "Maybe he'll shoot you," he said, reaching for the weapon. "Before you do something stupid," I said, making him freeze. "You should know that there are several police cars parked just outside the county line. They'll hear the shots and come here to investigate. And if they find us dead, they'll just shoot you, no questions asked. They will drive you into your own city and finish you off right in front of everyone." There was a long, tense silence. "Let's go, Captain," I said. We turned around and continued on our way. The sheriff didn't stop us, but I knew that his people were following us in cars, keeping their distance. We reached the county line, where the forensic scientists were finishing up their work. But the Coltrane County Sheriff didn't quit. He lined up his 3 deputies in a line, 3 feet from the county line, with shotguns on port arms. He himself stood nearby, arms crossed. "Just try to cross the border, bastards," he muttered. I walked to my SUV and dialed Hugh Hewitt, ordering him to round up 4 of our best-trained guys, the ones we were going to make SWAT guys as soon as the politicians gave the go-ahead. I told him that they should come in heavy gear, that is, in full bulletproof gear, and that they should all have loaded shotguns. They arrived 15 minutes later, and I ordered them to stand opposite Coltrane's deputies, face to face, right at the county line, with their shotguns in port arms position. I gave my boys an order, loud enough for everyone to hear, that if any of Coltrane's deputies pointed a gun across the county line, they were to shoot him without hesitation. "My guys are in armor, Sheriff," I said, "and yours look pretty pathetic in just their shirts. And by the way, Sheriff, your non-help will be brought to the attention of SBI and the FBI. I think it's time for the state to conduct an audit of all your services from the water utility to the shelter for stray dogs. What do you think?" "Fuck you, Mr. Scrap Iron," the sheriff replied. "Yes, I know who you are, bastard." He spat and added, "Send your auditors. They won't find anything with us. They know that it's better not to find anything." The sheriff did not remove his men until the last member of my team was loaded into the car and drove home. By 7 I was sitting in the Criminal Investigations Department, sipping a nutritious carnation chocolate shake and watching the morning news. How could I miss the report with the participation of the beautiful Bettina? "This is Bettina Wurzburg, KXTC, Channel 2 News." The red-haired beauty reporter began. She was standing on the side of County Highway 2, not far from the crime scene. "Channel 2 found out that a body was found in a ditch, not far from where we are now. The victim is a young white male. He was found completely naked, without identification. The police say that no signs of violence were found at the scene, but at this stage of the investigation, the possibility of a violent death cannot be ruled out. The rest of Bettina's report was of no interest, but something else caught my attention. We passed the floor to the National Department. Priya Ajmani is here with an update on the Miami dealer shootout. "Thank you, Bettina," said the gorgeous Indian brunette. "This is Priya Ajmani, KXTC, Channel 2 News. The FBI has updated information on a shooting in Miami that happened a couple of weeks ago. As a result of the conflict, 6 people were killed and 2 were seriously injured. Among those killed was a junior diplomat from the Venezuelan delegation attending the OAS conference. The Venezuelan government accused the United States of insufficient security, but the State Department responded that the diplomat had left a secure area around the hotel and conference center and was in the company of prominent traders at 2 prohibited substances. Weapons and other evidence were found at the scene of the shootout. It appears that there was a conflict between the gangs, and as a result, the diplomat received 8 gunshot wounds. I wondered, would the Miami police check the caliber of the bullets that killed this Venezuelan diplomat? At that moment, the police chief walked down the corridor and entered his office. I followed him, not forgetting to grab a cup of coffee for him. "So you lined up our people opposite their guys, right?" the chief asked, grinning after my report. He leaned back in his chair, enjoying his coffee. "Their sheriff is a real idiot and a bastard at that. He is corrupt up to his ears. You're lucky he didn't shoot you in the back as you were leaving." "Yes, sir," I said, "and it's not clear to me how to get those clothes now." "Well," the chief said thoughtfully, "you can simply officially request evidence from their criminologists, but they are so incompetent that it is useless. If they find something, it will be only because they put it there themselves." "That's it," I said irritably. "And now how to investigate the scene without involving SBI, I can't imagine." "I'll be honest with you, kid," the boss said, calling me Guy whenever he was about to teach me a lesson. "When a crime touches the border of 2 counties, SBI almost always has to be involved, especially when you're dealing with an asshole like that sheriff from Coltrane." "So who can we connect with? Who can we trust at least a little?" I asked. "Ted Crenshaw? Carter Fisher?" "I would say Ted Orozco if he weren't in Midtown," the chief replied. "But let me try through my channels. Let's see what can be done." At 9 Martin Nash entered the chief's office with me to present the first report. "First of all, the forensic scientist found foreign DNA," Nash said. "Detective Perlman is thrilled there is hope for DNA evidence from the woman she believes he had sex with before he died." "Good news," I said. "Did you manage to identify him?" "Not yet. The fingerprints didn't lead to anything," Nash replied. "No wonder. He is young, most likely never attracted. There is no information about him in the missing persons database about us, the university police or the staff, and the FBI also found nothing." "Have you contacted the university athletic department?" I asked. "I called, but there's no one there or in the coaches' offices," Nash said. "Captain Maxwell has taken it upon herself to find them." "What are our versions, Crowbar?" asked the boss. "None yet," I answered. "Am waiting for toxicology. Tanya promised a preliminary report by noon. The first thought is alcohol poisoning, illegal substances, a party. Martin, what do you think?" "I completely agree," Nash said. "I think the hardest thing is to identify the guy. Once we find out who he is, we can figure out what party he was at." "But why, then, was the body thrown into a ditch on the road in District 2? the boss remarked. "Moreover, sir," I added, "why was the body first left in Coltrane County and then moved to our county?" "What?" The boss was surprised. "There were many tracks to the clothes, but there was only one track to the north," I explained. "Why would someone do this?" asked the boss. I shrugged. "I don't have the slightest idea yet." Noon, in the boss' office. The boss called me into his office. "I have Deputy Straight on the line from Coltrane County," he said. "He's on speakerphone." "Speak up, Deputy Straight." "Chief, I would like to ask you to send your Lieutenant Crowbar to us, Straight said. And why? Asked the boss. We need his help in investigating a serious incident. Our sheriff was found dead in his car just minutes ago. I took Cindy Ross and Hugh Hewitt with me. They were both wearing heavy body armor, acting as my bodyguards. Under my uniform shirt, I wore a light bulletproof vest. I held my blue crowbar in my hands, Cindy held the police baton, and Hugh left his hands free so that he could quickly draw his pistols if necessary. Sheriff Straight, I said, addressing the deputy as acting sheriff, what happened here? I looked at the sheriff's body sitting in the driver's seat of his car, as if he was about to pull out of the parking lot. He was wearing sunglasses and his seat belt was fastened. First of all, Lieutenant, Straight said, showing rare wisdom, I am very sorry about what happened this morning. We deputies were simply following orders. Am sure, I said. I hope you, or whoever becomes the next sheriff, don't turn out to be such an asshole. Yes, sir, I agree with you, Straight said. He reminded me of Officer Pete Feely, young, too eager to please, wanting to be something he wasn't yet ready to be. Who found him? I asked. I am, Straight replied. What was he doing and where was he going from the time you left the county line this morning until you found his body? We came back here and he was in his office all morning, Straight said. I know he called our state representative and state senator, complained about you, and then closed the door and made several more calls, but I don't know who. Then he said that he was going out, did not say where, and went to the car. A few minutes later, I looked out the window and saw him still sitting there, so I walked over to see if he needed anything. While Straight was talking, I took out my magnifying glass. It was rectangular, not round. I carefully examined the dead sheriff's neck in the collar area of his shirt and saw what I expected. Straight, look here, I said. Straight looked through his magnifying glass. See that tiny red mark on the back of my neck, on the left, right at the collar line? I think he was injected with some kind of substance. You guys, I turned to other deputies. Come and look. Ross, Hewitt, you two. While everyone was looking at it in turn, I said, Sheriff Straight, I would suggest that your medical examiner run a full toxicology test. An even better idea is to seek help from the State Bureau of Investigation or the FBI to handle the evidence. Yes, sir. But what do you think happened? Straight asked. I think when your sheriff got into the car, someone quickly came up, put a gun to his head, and told him not to move, and then injected him. The drug took effect instantly, and the gunman may have remained nearby for several more seconds, holding the sheriff at gunpoint before fleeing. You should ask people nearby to see if anyone saw any suspicious characters in the parking lot or at the car window when the sheriff got inside. Is it possible that the criminal was waiting for him in the car? Cindy asked. Maybe, I answered, but then he would most likely make the sheriff drive off somewhere first. In addition, there is a plexiglass screen between the front and rear seats. If the sheriff were stabbed through the window in this screen, the needle mark would be on the right, not the left. Everyone nodded in agreement. Straight, I said. What about the clothes in the ditch that were found this morning? The sheriff took it and put it in the trunk of the car, Straight replied. Did he bring the evidence to the station? Straight hesitated. No, answered one of the deputies. When we returned, he started giving orders, forcing us to do other things. I forgot about the clothes, but now that you mention it, I understand that he forgot too. He never came back for her. The other deputies confirmed this. Then let's open the trunk and see if the clothes are still there, I said. Where are the keys? If not in the sheriff's car. Straight muttered. There were no keys in the ignition or in the dead sheriff's hand or pocket. Well, if you don't mind, I said, I'll try to open the trunk with this key. I quickly and deftly opened the trunk with my pry bar. There was a package inside, but it was empty. The clothes were gone. A lot of obscene words flashed through my head, but outwardly I remained calm. Okay, Straight, I said. There's nothing left for me to do here. Thank you for coming despite the incident this morning, Straight said. I hope our districts don't have to deal with problems like this again, I replied. Find the clothes and let me know if you find them. At that moment, my mobile phone rang. It was Detective Martin Nash. We have identified the guy, he said. I didn't say a word the whole way back to town. Hugh drove the car, Cindy sat in the back, and I, deep in thought, silently looked out the window. Finding myself alone in the parking lot at the site, I called Tanya Perlman. Tanya, tell Christina Cho to do a triple analysis of all the evidence, especially toxicology. Submit one sample to the university crime lab. The third one is classified and saved. Don't ask why, I'll explain later. I entered the conference room just as Nash was telling the boss and Captain Malone the details. The guy's name is Jeff Jackson, Nash said. Is this Jefferson Davis Jackson? Captain Malone interrupted. Yes, sir, that's his full name, Nash confirmed. Malone sighed heavily. Damn, I know his parents well. Chief, I'll call them myself, said Captain Malone. Of course, the boss answered. Nash, tell us about him. Football player, second-year student, but on the main team, plays tight end, Nash said. How was he identified? Asked the boss. Not even 15 minutes had passed before the students on campus recognized him. Campus police then ran the name through the DMV database. This is definitely him. Great job. Please convey our thanks to the campus police, the chief said. Malone, call your parents. They'll have to identify the body at the morgue. Captain Malone left, looking gloomy. So, Crowbar, what did you find out about the dead sheriff from Coltrane County? They poisoned him, injected him with some kind of drug, I answered. Deputy Straight calls the State Bureau of Investigation. He understands that this case is beyond his strength. Straight seems like an honest guy, but he's too young and woefully inexperienced. The chief nodded. What thoughts? Motive? Does this murder have anything to do with our dead student? I looked the boss carefully in the eyes. Yes, sir, I think it's related. The victim's clothes were missing. Someone killed the sheriff to take her from his car. And boss, they left the evidence bag, but they took the clothes. This was done intentionally, perhaps especially for me. I will accept your arguments, although only you could see the message in this. But why would anyone take the clothes at all? To clean up the evidence. I can tell you one thing, boss. This isn't just an accidental death from too much drinking at a party. At 9 p.m., the meeting began in the main conference room. The boss invited Captain Malone, myself, Britt Maxwell, Martin Nash, Diana Torres, Tanya Perlman, and Cindy Ross. Jeff's parents will arrive tomorrow morning, Captain Malone said. They took it hard. Lieutenant, I want you to be the one to talk to them and show them the utmost respect. It will be done, I answered, continuing to think. Perlman, the boss turned to Tanya. The first toxicology results show that he drank alcohol, but the level was below the limit of intoxication. There are traces of some medications in the blood, but nothing prohibited. At this point, it could be anything from a heart attack to a reaction to medications. We don't have enough data yet. Good job, Perlman, the boss said. Captain Maxwell, what do you have? I interviewed the entire coaching staff, Britt began. They said that yesterday the team had no planned events, official events, team parties. They didn't have a curfew this weekend, so they could act like regular students. What about enemies or threats? Asked the boss. I asked about this. All the coaches claimed that they did not know anyone who could wish Jeff harm. When I asked this question, they were surprised by the very idea that it could be murder. Word has already spread across campus that his death was not violent. Interesting, I remarked. Tanya, as soon as new data appears, check if he had any hidden medical problems. The coaches could hide it so he could play. And please don't let anyone tell Angela Harlan about my suspicions. I'm not accusing anyone of anything yet. Tanya nodded and made notes as Britt continued. By the way, Coach Harlan said he would ask the players if anyone was with Jeff that night and ask them to contact me if they had any useful information. But he didn't go further than that. When I asked permission to speak at a team meeting, he became evasive and did not promise anything. Crowbar, tell everyone what happened in Buford, the chief said. I have described all the events in detail. I don't want to say this as a reproach, Captain Malone began, which means that's exactly what he wanted to say. But if you and Captain Maxwell had not crossed the county line this morning, would the sheriff have found those clothes? Yes, he would have found her, I replied. I think we just got to see the clothes before they were taken away. I suspect that the sheriff was called to secure evidence at the crime scene, and he expected to find not only clothes, but also a body there. For me now the main question is where exactly the crime occurred, said Martin Nash. If we find the original place of death, it will help answer many questions. In Coltrane County, I said confidently. It happened in Coltrane County. How can you say this? Cindy asked, challenging me as always. Tire tracks, I answered. One car drove along a dirt road into our district, but there are no traces back. In the area of the ditch where the body was first found, there were traces of several cars. Most of them returned in the same direction from which they came, but one car drove north, leaving no traces of return. So I think one car pulled up, took the body from the ditch in Coltrane County, crossed the border and dumped the body in our county, then turned east and disappeared. The only alternative is that someone traveled a long way south or east before turning around and heading back north. But what's the point? Damn, you're good, Britt muttered. Maybe they were just drunk, scared students who didn't know what to do, suggested Captain Malone. Captain, I have reason to believe that this is not just a group of scared students. At least not the ones who moved the body. This was done by cold-blooded and desperate people. Why do you think so? Asked Nash. The murder of the Coltrane County Sheriff shows us that, I replied. Let's put aside emotions and focus on facts. First, the body is thrown into a ditch. This is panic. Then another group, at least two, picks up the body and moves it to a new place. This is already a calculation and a goal. Then they kill the sheriff, take the clothes, but leave the package. This is clearly a deliberate move. Same group of people? Maybe. But I am inclined to believe that the cleanup was carried out by professionals. I fell silent, although one name burned in my head like neon letters. Okay, guys, said the boss, now it's time for the bad news. As soon as it became known that this guy was a football player, my phone literally exploded. My hand hurts from holding the phone all day. One of the calls was from State Senator Nathan Allen, a complete asshole. He stated that he had received calls from the Coltrane County Sheriff and the Coltrane County Senator, both of whom were complaining about our guys. When I suggested that he call the sheriff back since he had just been found dead, the senator hung up. Since then, there has been no sound from him. But be that as it may, this matter will very quickly become political. Perlman, I know you're always working your butt off, but I need your team to give 100% tonight. By morning, I should have as accurate a data as possible before more calls start. Understood, sir, Tanya answered. We are already working on this. Okay, if nothing else. The boss began, about to get up. Sir. Diana Torres suddenly spoke hesitantly. Everyone turned to her. I know I'm just a new detective, but why would anyone first throw away the body and then move it to another place? The boss smiled good-naturedly. Detective Torres, that's what you're here for, to gain experience. Crowbar, I've been in this business for a long time, but I would like to hear an explanation myself. I have only one guess, I replied. And this is just a guess. I think that the first group that dumped the body and clothes deliberately stopped before the county line. And then someone else moved the body, but left the clothes in place. And he did it on purpose. I think the body was moved to our country so that we, the city and county police, could conduct this investigation. But some people wanted the case to remain outside our jurisdiction. And that's why I agree with the boss. This thing is going to get political and very nasty before it's over. By then, more will be said than done, the boss concluded, repeating one of his favorite phrases. Crowbar, your guesses are often more accurate than someone else's facts. I think you're right. Gentlemen, You constantly amaze me with your work. Go home and get some sleep. See you tomorrow at 6 in the morning. Angela, what do the police say about the death of my player? Brian Harlan asked, pouring wine into her glass. They don't have much information yet, answered Detective Angela Harlan. We are awaiting autopsy and toxicology results. Today, I was held on a case involving illegal substances with Teresa. Can't, she grinned. They call her that behind her back. Bitch, but a good detective. What about that lieutenant, Donald? Asked Coach Harlan, watching her too closely. I've been working here for less than a month, Angela said, but I can say one thing. He's the best detective I've ever seen. Every time he looks at me, it feels like he sees right through me. It's like he knows all my secrets. So you think he'll solve Jeff's death? Asked Harlan. Oh yes, Angela said, her voice shaking with emotion. Hugh told me that Don looked at the dead sheriff for just a minute and immediately knew what had happened. I even found a mark on his neck, and Martin said that Don had already figured out that the body was first dumped in one place and then moved to another. Wow, said Harlan thoughtfully, and he has jurisdiction over this matter. How does this work if some of the events took place in another county? Jeff's body was found in our district, Angela explained. That means our chief of police has jurisdiction. He can call the State Bureau of Investigation for assistance, turn the case over to them, or leave it to our detectives. Most likely, he will entrust this to Donald and Martin. What about the investigation department? Will they intervene? We could, but... Angela grinned. In other parts of the state, they may do well, but here they are pathetic. Oh, darling, I love you so much. After long minutes of hugging, Laura said, So you're still working on that football player's case? For now, I said. However, I'm afraid politics will get ugly since he's on the football team. I hope it's some natural causes or an accident, and we can figure out what happened and close the case, but... I stopped, thinking. But... Laura asked me to finish. But I don't think it's that simple. I said, and I think this guy was killed. The next morning, at 6 a.m., I entered the MCD room. Martin Nash was ahead of me, which made me very happy. As I poured a cup of coffee, I asked him if anything had happened overnight. Toxicology and preliminary report. He said, handing me a folder with files. Tanya is out there racing them like racehorses, and she's still there. She didn't go home last night. Fine, I said, reading the report. She knows how urgent it is. There was some alcohol in the victim's blood and stomach, but it was barely enough to even frighten him, much less kill him. There were no prohibited substances in his body. The report also mentions a prescription drug in the boy's system that was used to regulate his irregular heartbeat. There were also traces of possible residue from a performance-enhancing drug, which was subject to further analysis. The levels of these drugs were quite high, as if he had just taken them. A preliminary autopsy ruled out any violence or trauma. The young man appeared to have suffered cardiac arrest, possibly as a result of a heart attack, although the effects of substances on the heart could not be ruled out. Lieutenant, can I ask a question? Martin asked, and I knew what would be discussed. Do you want to know why I'm so zealous? I answered. He nodded. I looked around and then said, Just between us, this case is going to become very politicized because the victim is a player on the university football team. We need to gather as much information as possible as quickly as possible, because when the boss's phone starts ringing off the hook, it's going to get hot and dirty in here. At that moment, Diana Torres, Hugh Hewitt, and Angela Harlan entered the office. 5 minutes later, Cindy Ross appeared, looking unhappy. Why such a gloomy look, friend? I asked. I realized last night, she said sadly, what will happen this morning. I knew what she meant, and I simply nodded. What will happen? Asked Angela. Well, figure it out as we go, I said. By the way, Angela, I want to warn you right away. Since your cousin is the coach of the university team, and our deceased was its player, we need to be careful with your participation in the investigation. My first thought is to completely remove you from the case, but that would be unfair. Perhaps you can be helpful. Let's see how things go." "Understood, sir," Angela nodded. "But I'm a professional. You can trust me, no matter who my relatives are." "I trust you. We all trust you," I said. "It's not a matter of trust, but of appearance. Especially with such anti-police and anti-football press around." "I understand, sir," Angela said. "I hope Captain Malone brings the parents in early enough for you to question them," Cindy said. The others looked at us with curiosity. "Cindy, pour yourself some coffee and don't worry until it happens," I said. "Someone turns on the TV, it's almost 7 in the morning." "I'll do it," said Tanya Perlman, entering the office. She looked exhausted. "Cindy, coffee for our crime lab chief." "She did a Herculean job, staying up all night to prepare these reports," I said. Cindy brought 2 mugs and handed one to Tanya. We settled down in front of the TV, getting ready for this morning's episode of Bettina. This is Bettina Wurzburg, KXTC channel, Channel 2 News. Our TV channel has learned that the body of a young university student found yesterday morning is that of football player Jefferson Davis Jackson. Jackson was a sophomore and projected to be the starting tight end for the upcoming season. The university and athletic department expressed condolences, but no university or coaching staff officials would comment to the press pending autopsy results. The red-haired reporter continued, her face barely hiding a satisfied grin as she voiced the tragic details. Meanwhile, the police refused to provide new details about the death of Jeff Jackson, confirming only his identity. The police also refused to comment on whether there was a crime or whether the death was due to natural causes. Meanwhile, State Senator Nathan Allen's office released a statement saying county police were incompetent in investigating the case, and he wants the State Bureau of Investigation to handle it. It's a little early for such statements, isn't it? Martin Nash was indignant. I made a sign for him to be silent. I wanted to hear the rest. In other news, the people of Coltrane County are mourning the loss of their beloved sheriff. Bettina continued, naming the late scoundrel who was not at all loved. His death was ruled a heart attack, according to a statement from the local medical examiner. However, sources of our TV channel reported that the sheriff could have found traces of an injection of a drug that stopped the heart. The Coltrane Sheriff's Department also denied rumors of a clash with county police at the time of the discovery of Jeff Jackson's body, saying they were then and now willing to cooperate with the State Bureau of Investigation in the investigation. This was the news from Bettina Wurzburg, KXTC. As always, we will keep you updated with any new details. They are willing to cooperate with the Bureau of Investigation, but not with us, Martin Nash muttered, beginning to understand the political game and Bettina's subtle formulations. "Exactly," I said. "The media is helping the senator and the state prepare the ground for—" I didn't have time to finish. Captain Harold Malone entered the office, a rare occurrence. "The parents are here," he said. "They are waiting in the reception area." "Martin, come with me," I said. We followed Captain Malone into the reception area, where a couple in their 50s was waiting for us. The woman looked tear-stained and had red eyes. She had reddish hair, dyed, average height, and a fairly good figure. The man looked respectable. There was gray in his dark brown hair. He was tall, about 178 centimeters, and had obviously been an athlete in the past, although his age was already showing. "This is Doug and Roberta Jackson," the captain introduced, then introduced me and Detective Nash. "Don will take care of your case." "Do you know what happened to our son?" Roberta's voice trembled. "Let's go here," I suggested, pointing to the door to the interrogation room. We seated the Jacksons at the table, and Nash and I took seats across from them. Captain Malone sat down next to Mrs. Jackson. "First of all, Mr. and Mrs. Jackson, please accept my condolences," I began. "I understand that this is a difficult time for you, and I am very sorry, but in order to find out what happened to your son, we will have to ask some painful questions." "We understand," Mr. Jackson nodded. "How can we help? Did your son have any medical problems?" "Yes, they were," Mr. Jackson replied. "He said that at age 13, Jeff was diagnosed with a possible heart valve problem. Doctors monitored his condition, but the problem disappeared. However, at the university he was found to have signs of arrhythmia and pressure surges, as well as a predisposition to type 2 diabetes. He took medications to stabilize his blood pressure and heart rate. "Thank you, sir," I said. "Did Jeff go to parties often?" "Of course, like all students," admitted Mr. Jackson. "But not until late at night and didn't get drunk to the point of unconsciousness." "Did he have reason to fear anyone? Did someone want to harm him?" The parents looked at each other. "Everything you know matters," I said softly but insistently. "At Christmas, we heard that he was dating a girl and her ex was unhappy about it." Mr. Jackson admitted. "Do you know the name of this girl or her ex-boyfriend?" I asked. Both parents shook their heads. "Who was your source? Who told you about this?" Mr. Jackson mentioned the names of family friends, but then added, "Their son no longer studies here, and the whole family moved to California in the spring. We have completely lost contact with them." He dictated to me the last known telephone number of these friends, which he had in his mobile. "Thank you, Mr. Jackson," I said, writing down the number. "I still have one more question, and I ask you not to take it the wrong way." I paused, looked at them, and continued. "Your son's full name is Jefferson Davis Jackson. Was it named after the President of the Confederacy?" Mr. Jackson hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "Yes, it is. I ask because, as you know, black athletes play on the team. If they found out his full name, it might cause someone to react negatively. Have you ever heard of Jeff getting in trouble for his name?" "I've never heard of any problems," Mr. Jackson said. "And I don't think Jeff ever advertised his full name, although, of course, neither he nor we were ever ashamed of it." "Of course, sir," I said, "but I have to ask if this might be the reason why someone wanted to cause trouble for him." "I understand," Mr. Jackson said, "but again, Jeff never talked about any problems with with other players." "Thank you both," I said. "Detective Nash is investigating your son's death. Detective Nash, do you have any questions?" "Just one, and let me express my condolences," Nash said. "Did Jeff have a serious girlfriend, or did he often date different people?" "Great," I thought. Nash got the point. His mother spoke for the first time. "Jeff was very popular with the girls. In high school, he never had one steady girlfriend, but he had different girls constantly coming over to see him or go to parties with him. If he had a serious girlfriend in college, he wouldn't have told me about it." Mr. Jackson also shook his head. "Thank you," Mom Nash said. "Lieutenant, I already asked if you had any idea what happened to my son," Mrs. Jackson said, her eyes piercing me. "Not yet, Mom," I replied. "There were no signs of violence on his body, and no prohibited substances were found in his body. Perhaps he simply had a heart attack, but we cannot yet completely rule out the criminal nature of the incident." "Thank you, Lieutenant," Captain Malone said, eager to end the interrogation. "I'll let you continue your work, and I'll take my parents to that building." I understood what he meant. The parents had to identify the body. "Of course," I replied. "Again, am sorry for your loss, and we will let you know as soon as we have new information." Sunday, 8:30 a.m. is not the best time to work, but I was driving to the University Athletes Hostel with Martin Nash. However, necessity demanded quick action. "We must act quickly," I said. "You weren't here when we once interrogated a football player named Tony. Then he supplied the team with drugs, which he bought from my nephew Ned and my sister Elizabeth. I want to talk to him and see if he knows where Jeff Jackson was on Friday night." "Do you think he'll tell you?" Martin asked. "If you ask the right questions." "So you're a campus police cop now," Martin noted. He noticed that I had pinned my campus police badge to the lapel of my jacket, where it was clearly visible. "Yeah, I now officially have jurisdiction on campus. You're not really, so you're just my bodyguard." "Like you need a bodyguard," Martin grinned as we pulled into the parking lot of the athlete's dorm. I showed my badge to the front desk, where some arrogant teenager was on duty. We walked down the hallway to the stairs at the far end of the building and up to the third floor. Coming out of the flight of stairs, I saw the study room on the left. 3 doors to the right, and I stopped, knocking. The door was opened by a young athlete, Tony's neighbor. Tony himself was lying in bed, just waking up. "Get up, Tony," I commanded. "Let's go, let's talk." What? What the hell?" Tony muttered, waking up. When he saw me, he got angry. "You promised to leave me alone." "And I kept my word," I said. "But now put on your pants and let's talk in the study room at the end of the corridor." "I have nothing to tell you," Tony snorted. "You have something to say if you want to play football this year," I replied. "I just want to talk, Tony." At the end of the corridor. Went. "Damn," Tony muttered. "Cal, call the coach and tell him that damn cop got to me." "I wouldn't do that, Cal," I warned. "I just need to talk to him without getting him into trouble. If you call the coach, he'll have to arrest you both." "Wait until I get back, Cal," Tony said. Much smarter, I thought. In the study room, Tony and I sat at a small round table, and Martin Nash stood by the door. "Tony, did you know that Jeff Jackson was found dead on Friday night?" I asked. "Yes, so what?" "Do you know what he did that evening? Were you at the party?" "No idea," Tony replied. "I didn't hang out with him. And why did you bother me at all? You promised to leave me alone when that story ended." "Yes, Tony," I said, "and this is not about that story. You're not in trouble, buddy. But traces of the substance were found in Jackson's body, and you, as far as I know, were the main supplier of such substances." "Listen, man," Tony said, now with obvious concern in his voice. "After the whole thing with Big Alex and my supplier, I'm done with this shit. Someone else is doing this, but I don't know who and I don't want to know. I don't know anything about Jackson at all. Who can know? I'm not interested in the substances. I just want to know what happened to him." "Try talking to Teddy Franklin," Tony said quietly. "He played on the same team with Jeff and often trained with him. They went to parties together, shared girls, and all that." "Where is his room?" "He doesn't live here," Tony replied. "In the old dorm. He's in Rock and at football, so he got one of the big rooms there." Tony gave the room number. "Thank you. One more question. Has your supplier, Ned, come to see you?" Tony hesitated, but realized it was better to answer. "Yes, 2 weeks ago. He came up to me after training. He looked like a coach, the same polo and sweatpants. He said I still owed him money. I got angry and said that I wouldn't give him anything, and if he came at me, my teammates would tear him apart. And he said he didn't need the money, but just wanted me to introduce him to Coach Harlan. Then he will forget about my debt." At that moment, there was a knock on the door. It was the assistant coach and the same arrogant guy from the reception. "Hey, what's going on here? The cops can't question our players without permission," the coach began. But when he saw me, he froze, stunned. "Don, God, Don, is that you?" "How are you, Coach?" I said, extending my hand, but it wasn't enough. Coach grabbed me in a bear hug like I was his long-lost son. I answered him the same. "Damn it, how are you, son? I haven't seen you since you graduated and received your officer rank." "Martin, this is Coach Marshall, Erskine Iron Man Marshall," I said, introducing him to Nash. "He was a strength coach at my school when I was studying. He volunteered to train ROT cadets as his contribution to military service, and damn it, how he tormented us for a whole year preparing us for the camp. Yeah, I was Iron Man, and now this guy is Iron Man. That's how it goes," Marshall said, laughing. "Yes, I heard about you, Don. I've been wanting to get in touch for a long time, but we have so much work to do." "Me too," I replied. "Every time I come to campus, I get stuck with either the campus police or the psychology department." "Exactly," Marshall laughed again. "Martin, you probably know that this guy is one of the best cops. I knew he would make an excellent officer. If Tony worked as hard as Don, he would already be a Heisman Trophy candidate. Hey, Tony isn't in trouble, is he? No, coach. I just informally asked him a few questions about the death of Jeff Jackson, I replied, covering Tony. Okay, but according to the rules, I can't allow you to interrogate players without the approval of management, Marshall said. You know what our protocols are. Yes, I know. Thank you, coach. Here's my business card, I said, handing him the card. Let's get in touch somehow, although I understand that now you are in the midst of the season. Absolutely, Don, the coach said. Now just go downstairs and leave as if you were never here. Tony, this is the first time I see you in the training room. We heard the last phrase on the way out. As I walked past that arrogant guy at the front desk, I glared at him. He glared back, and I made a mental note that I needed to find out more about him. The main square of the university, or quad, was surrounded by faculty buildings. In the north, psychology, pharmaceuticals, chemistry, and others. In the south, English literature, art, history, and other humanities. There was an entrance from the north, a gate in an ancient hedge that overlooked the main road, beyond which the city began. To the east, high above the campus, was a mountain, and on it was my home, known as the Shack. Just north of the main ring of buildings was a second quad, surrounded by dormitories. At its western edge stood the old hostel, separated from the road by a narrow strip of land and a fence. Directly opposite, at the foot of the mountain, was the new dorm, which, despite the name, was only the second oldest building and was an exact copy of the old. Directly above it on the mountain was my mother's house. The front of the old hostel resembled the front of the Alamo, but was made of old red brick. Nash and I ignored the girls at the front desk, even though I made sure they noticed my campus police badge. Having gone up to the second floor, we came to the right door. Its windows looked out onto the main road and not into the courtyard. When we knocked, the door opened and a stunning blonde stood before us. She was completely naked, except for a towel that barely covered her ample breasts and hips. "Hey guys, how can I help?" she asked playfully, reminding me of Tanya Perlman. "Is Teddy Franklin here?" I asked. "Sorry, he just left," the girl replied. "Do you want to leave him a message?" Nash reached for his business card, but I stopped him. "Well, find him ourselves," I said. "Thank you, miss." Pushing Nash forward, I led us out of the building. When we got back to the car, Nash sighed. "Phew, it's good that I have a girlfriend." "Yeah," I agreed. "Football players get all the girls." "Why not just leave our number and ask him to call back?" asked Nash. "Because he won't call back," I said. "And if he finds out that the police are looking for him, he might run away. Especially if he knows something about Jeff Jackson." "So how do we find him?" Martin asked. At that moment, my phone rang. "Yes, Chief," I answered. "Understood, sir." I nodded obediently when I heard his order to immediately return to control. "That's it," I said, putting the phone away. "What do you mean?" "You'll see for yourself soon," I said, starting the car irritably. When we entered the control building, the tension was immediately felt, as if the air could be cut with a knife. Upon entering the Major Crimes Office, we saw that all the detectives from our department and the Controlled Substances Unit were present, with the exception of Stephen Ikai and Sergeant Sharples. The latter was on vacation. He attended the funeral of a relative. Although everyone was chatting animatedly, Cindy Ross sat at her desk, sullen. No one in their right mind would dare approach her, not even her friend Teresa "Bitch" Croyle. I did what any good major crimes lieutenant would do. I went straight to Cindy. Nobody said I was out of my mind, right? "What's going on, friend?" I asked. "Captain Maxwell didn't come alone," Cindy answered, looking at me from under her brows. "Commissioner Robinson was with her." This was confirmed by the words of Britt Maxwell. "Chief Griswold is currently in a meeting with Commissioner Robinson and SBI Deputy Director Tom Conlan." At that moment, the chief's secretary, Martha, appeared at the back door. "The chief asks you all to come to room J," she announced with an air as if inviting us to a reception with the president of the university. Along the way, I addressed my colleagues. "Guys, I think you already guessed what awaits us. Let's maintain our dignity and remain the professional police officers that we are." Everyone agreed gloomily. When the boss came in, I commanded, "Everyone stand up." "Have a seat," he said. Then, pursing his lips, he began. "After discussions with other law enforcement agencies, I have decided to transfer the case of Jeff Jackson to the jurisdiction of the State Bureau of Investigation." A dull murmur filled the room. The chief stopped his sentence mid-sentence and looked around the room with a stern look, forcing everyone into silence. "We will provide the SBI with copies of all our materials in the case, including reports, forensic results, and one set of evidence. We will cooperate with them, but only if they ask us for help. Until then, none of you should not continue to investigate the Jeff Jackson case. Captain Malone will continue to help the parents of the deceased, as they are his personal friends, but only in this capacity. I expect each of you to handle this decision with professionalism and, Miss Ross, do you have anything to say?" The chief noticed that Cindy, although silent, was flushed with rage, and her eyes were literally blazing with fire. Teresa Croyle tried to stop her, but Cindy had already stood up, stood at attention and spoke, looking not at the boss, but straight ahead. "That's right, sir, with respect, but I cannot agree with this decision. Without this person," she pointed sharply at me, "and without our team, this case will never be solved. SBR can't find water in the pool, sir. By law, the decision on jurisdiction is yours, and I ask you to reconsider and leave this matter to us." "Thank you, Miss Ross. Sit down," the boss said calmly. The tension in the room became almost unbearable. Even Teresa Croyle seemed sure that thunder was about to strike. The boss paused, then continued. "I'm not going to explain my decision to you, but I will say two things. First of all, I have complete trust in each of you and your work. This is the solution that is not associated with a lack of confidence in your competence, but on the contrary, it is an indicator of my confidence in you." He looked at me, then looked at the others. "Secondly, there's an old saying, the higher you go up the flagpole, the more your butt sticks out. One day, when some of you, especially this lieutenant standing in front, rise higher, they will understand the meaning of these words. For now, this is my ass on the flagpole, and although you don't understand it, I made this decision to protect you." The chief paused for another moment, then his voice softened. "Okay, guys, today is Sunday. Go home, rest, and come back tomorrow ready to take on new challenges. Crowbar, Perlman, Captain Maxwell, stay. The rest are free." Everyone got up and started leaving. As Cindy passed me, I whispered to her to wait for me in the Criminal Investigations Department, and she nodded. "Okay, Perlman," the chief said when we were in the conference room. "Let Technician Cho do his magic and make sure we have the samples left." "Already done, sir," Perlman replied. Commissioner Robinson was also in the room, his face expressionless. "Dawn, I want to make it twofold. Neither you nor Criminal Investigations are to work on this case unless you are asked to assist SBI," the chief said. "Captain Maxwell, I cannot order you not to deal with this matter." "I can," said Commissioner Robinson, looking out the window. Then he turned and glared at Britt. "And that's what I do. We're off the case too, Captain." I realized that this little dialogue was pre-planned between them. "That's right, sir," Britt replied, losing morale like the rest of us. "Lieutenant, stay," said the chief. "The rest can go." I asked Tanya to wait in my office in this building until I was free. She nodded. Everyone else left, leaving me alone with Chief Griswold. There was a long silence. "Well, Crowbar, no comments," the boss finally said. "No, sir," I answered, perhaps a little dryly. "You made a decision, and you have your reasons for it." "Very professional of you," said the boss. "I appreciate it, although part of me wishes you were yelling at me right now." "I see that you are angry. Were you the one who put on that little show when I walked into Auditorium J?" "Yes, sir," I replied. "It was to attract attention. No pun intended." "You'll just have to wait until you find yourself in the boss chair," he said. That's why I don't want this chair for another 20 years, I answered. The boss looked at me intently. What do you want, Crowbar? He asked directly, for the first time ever. Ultimately, I mean. To solve cases and clean up not only this police department, but this entire county. An ambitious task, but I'm with you on this. By the way, does Miss Ross need any further guidance on professional conduct? No, sir, I replied. I'll talk to her. I walked into the criminal investigations office a few minutes later. Cindy Ross sat at her desk. Teresa was opposite her, but they were silent. When I walked in, Teresa excused herself and left. I pulled a chair over to Cindy and sat down next to her. Well, what kind of trouble did I get myself into? She asked without looking at me. None, I answered. Absolutely none. The boss, of course, was not happy, but there would be no consequences. If he changes his mind and puts something on your file, he'll remove it. I continued. Perhaps I would advise expressing such things in private, even if given the opportunity to speak out. You could go to the boss' office and smash him to smithereens, scold him properly, as long as it was in private. Now, of course, there is no need to do this. Cindy smiled at the last remark. I think I should apologize, she said. No, just forget it, I replied. The boss let you speak on purpose in order to achieve several goals, one of which is this conversation that we are having now. As the posters say, keep calm and keep working. Well, it looks like we've been taken off the case, Cindy said. Yes, I replied, but along the way I have a few clues that can be explored. Will you join me, partner? Cindy finally smiled for real. Of course, partner. Tanya was in her small office opposite mine when I walked in to pick her up. Let's walk to the crime lab building, I said. This building and the morgue were located across a secure parking lot inside the fence, so they were protected. We had to walk 120 meters on asphalt. It was good, no bugs. I checked. On the way, I quietly asked, have you already started doing a DNA test on the material found on Jackson? Yes, Tanya answered, smiling. I think it's safe to say that Jackson was straight, I said. Do you have enough samples to give to SBI? No, Tanya answered. Then don't give it to them. Don't mention this material in your notes. Keep testing. Once everything is ready, we will have to give SBI a copy of the results, but we will deal with that later. Acknowledged, boss, Tanya said. By the way, how does the boss know about Christina's magic? Because I told him, I answered. They don't hide secrets from their superiors, especially from the chief of police, and especially from this man. How do you feel about him handing over the case to SBI? Tanya asked with doubt on her face. This is so unlike him. To some extent, yes, I said. But he's getting old, approaching retirement. We have some serious problems in the department that I'm keeping an eye on. By the way, don't tell anyone about this, and I think the chief is actually trying to protect us from our own ability to solve this case. If I'm right, this all leads back to the football team, and may God have mercy on anyone who dares to cause problems for this sacred cow of the university and county. I've never seen a boss give in to the university, no matter what. For him, justice always came first, Tanya said with sadness in her voice. And so it will continue. He didn't give up. Don't judge him too harshly, I said, smiling as we approached the laboratory building. On Monday morning, around 9 o'clock, I gave a folder containing copies of my notes on the Jackson case to Ted Crenshaw. Ted was the SBI agent we worked with on the Anthony Warner and the Exchange case. SBI agents swarmed our office and crime lab, clearly enjoying making sarcastic comments about my employees. The usually calm and professional Martin Nash was so annoyed that he told one agent, "Watch your language," when he brazenly declared that the city police were not competent enough to handle the case. The agent quickly shut up when he looked back and saw Cindy Ross glaring at him, ready to grab his throat. Fortunately for everyone, the people who worked in the laboratory respected Tanya Perlman enough not to start a showdown with her. Perhaps the situation was kept under control by Officer Pete Feely and 2 other patrolmen wearing body armor, armed with pistols and heavy police batons. "I'm really sorry it turned out this way," Crenshaw said. "Yes," I answered. "And your people here are not helping at all with their barbs." "He'll remember this." "Listen, Don," Crenshaw said, clearly trying to maintain normal relations. "I was sent here because I have a good relationship with you and your guys. I told my people to keep their mouths shut, but as you can see, they don't listen. Let me deal with them. There will be reprimands." "Okay," I said. "By the way, since you're here, would you like to formally ask me for help in the investigation?" Crenshaw looked around, then lowered his voice and sat down on the edge of the table opposite me. "I'm not in charge of this business. Moreover, I am not included in the investigation at all. I was only sent here because I'm one of the few SBI agents you don't want to beat to death with your crowbar. Thayer's scared to death of you, Don. Not just because of the crowbar, but also because of your ability to solve cases." He looked around again, then leaned closer and said quietly, "Don, I was given very clear instructions. Neither I nor anyone else from SBI should ask you or your people for any help. Maybe that's why some of our people act like assholes. They just cover up so they don't accidentally say the wrong word. But the point is that the management really scared us. And to be honest, it seems to me that they don't want this case to be solved. Or they want it to be revealed in the direction they need in a way that in no way harms the university and, in particular, the football program. No matter where the truth leads," I answered quietly. "And Ted, maybe it really was a heart attack and someone just panicked and got rid of the body. But look around and tell me, does this look like a normal reaction to a heart attack?" "Speaking of truth," Crenshaw said, "I will gladly hand over these materials and get out of this matter. It is toxic, pure poison." I wondered if he realized how literally he was being. At 10 a.m., Coach Erskine Iron Man Marshall walked into the office of head football coach Brian Harlan. "Did you call me, Coach?" "Yes, come in and sit down," Harlan answered. "What's the matter?" asked Marshall. "I'll tell you straight," said Harlan. "I heard that you interrupted the cop's conversation with Tony, and that you know this cop well." "Yes, that's right," Marshall said. "He was an rock cadet at the college where I worked before. I was training cadets in strength training back then, just like I am here. He was an excellent cadet, and then a good officer, as far as I know." "What did he talk to Tony about?" asked Harlan. "Don't know. When I walked in, they fell silent. I told Don that he could not communicate with the players without the approval of the coaches, and he and his partner left. You better ask Tony what they were talking about." "I already asked. It concerned the death of Jeff Jackson." "Tony didn't know anything," Harlan said, then fixed Marshall with a piercing gaze. "Listen, Iron Man, I'll say it very frankly. I don't want you talking to that cop while Jackson is under investigation, even if he's your friend. And if you see him trying to talk to our players, notify me immediately." "Of course," Marshall replied. Coach, did something happen?" He was overcome with great anxiety. "SBI intercepted Jackson's case, and this makes me much calmer," said Harlan. I don't trust city district police, even though my cousin got a job there. To be honest, I feel even worse with her. But I want these cops to stay away from us until the SBI comes out with a verdict that Jackson is dead, from natural causes or something like that." "Got it, Coach," Marshall replied. "See you at practice," Harlan said, thereby dismissing him. As soon as Marshall left, wide receivers coach Willie "Speedy" Gonzalez walked through the back door of his office. He was thin, with light brown skin, black hair, and a mustache, and his eyes were always sly, especially when he squinted. He was also the person who was involved in the supply and distribution of the substance and other drugs to players who could keep their mouths shut. "Well, what do you think, Speedy?" asked Harlan. "He's too honest. And he's friends with the most honest and most powerful cop in the city police, who is also a campus cop. I don't like this arrangement at all, Coach." "Me too," Harlan said, his voice becoming lazy. "Speedy, if something goes wrong and the investigation gets out of hand, I want you to prepare everything in advance so that Marshall would be the last one. Understood? Start with Farrell now. Yes, sir, coach. Yes, sir. It will be a real pleasure. At 1 p.m., I headed to Town Fitness. Fortunately for me, my nephew Todd turned out to be a friend of Teddy Franklin, one of the participants in the unofficial brotherhood. Todd arranged to meet him at the gym. I went into the men's locker room, changed into swimming trunks, and went to the sauna. The temperature was not too high. A few minutes later, Todd and another college-age guy walked in. Teddy Franklin was tall, slender, with a head of brown hair and good looks. No wonder he had a naked blonde in his room, I thought. After a short introduction, Todd left. "Are you sure no one will see us?" Teddy asked nervously. "The coaches drilled it into our heads not to talk to the cops." "We don't talk." "This is absolutely unofficially and off the record," I said. "There won't be a single record of this conversation, and no one will know that we even talked." "What about someone seeing us?" As soon as Todd left, he closed the premises. "No one will come in here until we leave. One of the co-owners of this gym is my partner in the police force, and the other is my ex-wife, and we are on good terms with her. Yes, I had a chance to meet Melina." "Okay, how can I help?" Teddy asked, relaxing. "Jeff Jackson. What can you tell us about him?" "Not much," Teddy replied. "I didn't really communicate with him. In fact, I hang out more with the Rot guys or Todd and his friends than with the other football players." "The unofficial fraternity has better parties, right?" I asked with a smile. "The girls there are much cooler than at football parties," Teddy grinned. "By the way, it seems Jeff is on Friday night. I was at one of these unofficial alumni parties. Those who went there are silent as fish. I think it has something to do with his death. Team closed the ranks." "I've heard something about such parties, but tell me more," I said. "Fill in the blanks." "Okay. Typically, a group of 10-20 players gathers somewhere off campus. One of those big vans or minibuses arrives and picks us up. University buses. Don't know. They are unmarked. Who organizes meetings and coordinates trips? Usually a couple senior students from the team. It's always only for players. They try to ensure that everyone who wants to attend such a party at least once a year. But of course, some people go there more often. Nick Eastwood, the quarterback, goes to all the parties. Jeff liked them too. Were you with him on this one? No, not this one. But last spring, during spring training, he and I were at one such party, Teddy said. The scheme is as follows. We get on the bus, we don't see where we are being taken, and we are told not to look out. In the end, we find ourselves either in a country club with a swimming pool in the warm season or in a large house or chateau with an indoor pool in winter. There's a lot of graduates. Some bring with them wives who flirt with us. Do alumni just communicate with players? We're talking about football, and if someone wants, he can retire with the graduate's wife in the house or in one of the rooms, and we have sex with them. I remember the first time I did this with one of the wives, I was terribly afraid that her husband would come in. But she said that he's aware what he wants for himself, what he likes as much as she does, so what it's kind of a privilege that we play good football for the university. I think our university is not the only one where this kind of crap happens, I remarked. Exactly, far from the only one. So the players are having fun with their wives, drinking, maybe something else. No prohibited substances. Nobody plays like that. This rich alumni, they won't risk it. But there is alcohol, yes. After the guys have fun, graduates say goodbye and leave, and we stay in the house or in the club. And what next? Graduates throw money into the pool. Then they leave, and we climb into the water and take out the money. Usually divide equally, and if something remains, we donate to charity at the university. You said that they take you there with the windows closed, but you've probably already figured out where they're taking you. Yes, mostly summer parties are held at the Lake Okeechobee Country Club. In Coltrane County? Don't know. There's a rather old clubhouse, a large meeting room, a couple of small offices on the sides, a bit like the American Legion. Exactly. Good description. As a child, I played minor league baseball, and it really does look like the American Legion. Great. This is useful information. By the way, did Jeff Jackson have a girlfriend? He played on all fronts, yes, and he preferred to seduce girls who were already dating someone. One more question. Did he have problems with black players? No, that didn't happen. He was friendly, made fun of the black guys, but we do that. Okay, Teddy, you helped a lot. By the way, if you are called for questioning by SBI, don't lie to them, but speak selectively. I got you. Everyone has already understood that they don't want to find anything bad, so that we can say what a heart attack is and close the case. What do you think? I asked. Maybe so, but it's too painful. They keep silent a lot. Coaches are nervous. Teddy paused, then looked at me and said, Don, can I ask you a favor in return for this information? Certainly. If I can, it'll help, I replied. Listen, I'm a good football player, but I didn't make it into the main team because the guy who plays in my position takes stimulants. I was offered this crap too, but I didn't do it. I was afraid it would ruin my career in ROTC and the Army. And in general, I don't use such rubbish. You're right, that would have ruined everything, and I'm glad you didn't make that mistake, I said. Listen, I love this university. I love football. There are a lot of good players here. I don't want to ruin the program or bring shame on the university, but if I say one word out loud about substances, the NCAR will crush us like a ton of bricks, and most likely, you will investigate my murder. But if there is a way to get rid of the hosts and the distributors without harming the football program, I would be very grateful. Who distributes? One of the players, I asked. No, receptionist coach. His name is Gonzalez, but we call him Speed Gonzalez. He is a dangerous man. Is head coach Harlan aware? What about other coaches? I think others don't know, but they don't get into it on purpose. Strength coach, Iron Man Marshall, he doesn't know for sure. He constantly tells us to never use such substances, and if he found out that someone was distributing, he would beat him up. Harlan, most likely he knows. He is aware of all the dirt associated with graduates and recruiting, but always stays away. He'll see what I can do, Teddy. Thanks for the information. Leave first, I said. Teddy got up and left, and I stayed for a few more minutes, pondering the information I had received. As I walked through the main gym, I saw Melina showing something in a large notebook to Cindy. They looked up when I approached. Hi, Don, Melina said. I heard that your case was taken away. Daniel said, he said that the whole department was demoralized. Hello, beautiful, I replied. Yes, it's part of the job. Well, at least our sauna helped you relax, Melina asked. Very, I answered. Cindy couldn't hide her smile. Well, that's it for my first case, Martin Nash said bitterly, referring to the first case in which he was appointed lead investigator. He was sitting in my office. It was 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I wanted to go see Coach Harlan about a side issue, but he was busy training. I decided to ambush him in the morning. Yes, but knowing the criminals in this city, you will soon have another case, I said. What did you want to discuss? Well, I did a routine check on Jeff Jackson's parents, Nash said, to see if they had any enemies who could get to them through their son. And of course, you started this investigation even before we were ordered to close the case, I said. I'm sure that's how it all happened, isn't it? I pushed Nash toward an exculpatory explanation, and he took the hint. Yes, sir, of course, Nash replied with something like a smile. I discovered something, so the FBI did a check. Here, the report has just been sent. Before I open it, let me try to read the vibrations, I said, rubbing my fingers over the dossier on the table. I see. A group of white supremacists. I see that the Jacksons are connected with them, and someone else, another couple. I opened my eyes and smiled. Am I right? Nash smiled, but didn't laugh. Yes, sir. You've probably heard them say this. Yes, I said, and naming your child after Jefferson Davis is a pretty obvious signal. I don't know if Jeff himself was as racist as his parents, but it's a clue. Yes, sir, Nash said, but I was struck by another couple mentioned in the file. I can guess who it is, I said. Captain Harold Malone just told us that the victim's parents were close friends of his. I immediately realized that they would be ardent racists. And this file confirms that Malone and his wife are friends with the Jacksons and associated with a group of white supremacists, Nash confirmed. I knew it, I said, but he hides it well. Keep it a secret for now. It's not illegal to be a racist, just acting on that ideology is criminal. But Malone didn't seem to do any of that. The less he knows that we know, the better. Yes, sir, Nash said. What should I do next? We're not allowed to directly investigate the Jackson case, I said, but there are many side issues that can be explored. It seems our fair town's criminals have gone quiet, perhaps ahead of the start of football season on Saturday. If you're ready, let's move on to other things. Contact Myron Milton and find out everything you can about these people. I gave him a list with 2 names. If the boss or SBI asks why you are digging under them, tell them to come to me. Yow'll say it has something to do with my dear nephew Ned. I understand everything in leaving. As the sun set, Coach Erskine, Iron Man, Marshall headed from the practice fields to the coach's offices for a post-practice meeting. The day turned out to be alarming. An SBI agent named Farrell interrogated him roughly and suspiciously, asking him about illegal substances. The other coaches were not asked anything like that. What was even more disturbing was that Harlan and Gonzalez acted distantly, looking at him. Lost in thought, he felt someone approaching from behind. Turning around, he saw a tall, dark-haired young man. "Hello, Coach." The guy suddenly stumbled, and Marshall supported him. "Thank you, Coach," the student said and quickly left. Marshall felt something in his pocket. This was the note. "You're being followed. In 15 minutes, when you get home, turn off the lights, go out the back door, and go to Cone Street. There will be a green car with a woman behind the wheel. She will explain everything." Signature. Trigon rules the night. Only one person could know this. Coach Erskine Marshall decided to follow the instructions in the note. He left through the back door and headed towards the fence between his house and his neighbor's house. It was almost midnight. The neighbor's dog barked, but, recognizing him, quickly calmed down. The dog did not interfere with Marshall as he easily climbed over the fence and sneaked through the yard onto Cone Street. 20 meters to the right stood an old green car with its headlights off. A platinum blonde was driving. When he approached, the woman said, "Coach Marshall, sit down. Faster, please." He got into the car, and the woman immediately started the engine, driving away, avoiding Pine Street, where his house was located. "Did you hear the dog bark?" Dick Farrell asked as he sat in his car overlooking Coach Marshall's house. The light was still on in one of the front rooms. "Yeah, probably a cat," answered Stephen Ikea, sitting in the passenger seat. Against the orders of the city police chief, Ikea assisted Farrell in the case, but for his own reasons. "I can't wait to arrest this bastard for distributing stuff," Ikea said. "He's friends with that bastard, Detective Dawn. I want to see his face when I tell him that his friend was caught on illegal substances." "Yeah," Farrell grinned. "Both of them have no idea what is coming at them. We will also put a lot of pressure on your boss's reputation." "To hell with it," said Ikea. "Soon the GBR will take me in, and then we'll really deal with them. The Lord's justice will flow like a river and wash away the iniquity of these sinners." Farrell nodded and looked out the window. The dog doesn't bark anymore, and it's strange that everything is so quiet in the house. Has this bastard gone to bed already?" "Coach, my name is Detective Cindy Ross from the city police. Your friend Dawn asked me to pick you up. The SBI is watching you," Cindy said, driving the car along a confusing route through the city streets. "What's the matter?" asked Marshall. "Dawn will explain when we arrive. He thinks you might be in danger." "Danger? From whom?" Marshall looked in the rearview mirror, checking if they were being followed. "No idea," Cindy replied. "My lieutenant has a habit of not sharing information ahead of time. I think he'll find out everything with you." After a while, they arrived at the back of a shopping center on the west side of town. Cindy turned into a service alley, where it was dark due to the lack of lighting, and stopped in front of a metal door at the far end of the building. "We're there," she said, getting out of the car. Cindy took out the key, opened the door, and motioned for Marshall to enter. They walked through a dimly lit gym and found themselves in a large, dark gym. They were at the fitness center town fitness centers. "In part owner of this place," Cindy said, leading the trainer to the stairs leading to the offices on the second floor. "The SBI can monitor the entrance, but only I have the key to the back door." She led him upstairs into a dark office and extended her hand, pointing to the door. "Come on in." Marshall couldn't see what was inside, but he stepped through the threshold. "Trigon rules the night." The voice was mine. I flipped the switch, and the lights came on in the room. "Dawn," Marshall exclaimed. "What's happening?" "Thank you for trusting me and my partner," I said. "Take a seat." "Cindy, now get your toned ass in here," I added, smiling. Marshall sat down on the sofa against the wall, and I sat in a chair at an angle to him. Cindy took a seat by the door. "Coach, we don't have much time, and you need to sleep," I said. "First, tell me, how do you like the work and the team?" Marshall chuckled. "It's funny, but that's exactly what I was thinking about when your courier gave me the note," he said. "By the way, it was a cool trick. But to answer your question, I feel disgusted here. Things didn't go the way I hoped. Harlan is a completely different person from Richmond, the coach at my old university." Marshall thought for a moment, then continued. "We never sold our house after moving here. The wife could not stand it and returned there with the children. The house I rent belongs to some rich man, and he refuses to take rent from me. Some graduate pays it for me, so I can leave at any time." "Have you contacted Coach Richmond?" I asked. "Yes. He said that my place is still free, and he will gladly accept me. But according to the contract, I am obliged to work out this season. Although if everything continues in the same spirit, I will leave even earlier." "What do you mean?" "Harlan was very angry when he found out that I knew you," Marshall said. "After I intervened in your conversation with Tony, he began to act cold. The atmosphere is kind of strange, you know." "You bet," I said. "And it's not in vain that you feel this way." "Were you questioned by the SBI?" "Yes, and it was damn strange." Marshall flared up. "This Farrell is a real bastard. Pardon the expression, but he acted like a complete idiot. He only asked me questions about the substances, whether I was using them or distributing them. No mention of Jeff Jackson, just steroids. And then it turned out that not a single other coach was even asked about substances." I looked pointedly at Cindy, who gave me the same look, then turned to the coach and said, "You are right about Agent Farrell. He is indeed from SBI's anti-prohibited substances branch. He's one of the biggest assholes I've ever met, and I make no apologies for the expression. It fits perfectly. I saw police pointing a gun at him, and one FBI agent beat him right in front of me. He's such a nasty guy." I continued. "Let me explain from the very beginning. A few months ago, I discovered that a young man, my nephew Ned, who had turned into a ruthless killer, was supplying the football team with performance-enhancing drugs. It's a long story that I'll tell you later, but then Ned was detained and disappeared. And recently, I learned that Coach Gonzalez has become a new supplier for the players who decided to use him." "Jesus Christ," Marshall gasped. "I had no idea." "I know, that's why I'm talking to you about it now," I said. "Jeff Jackson's death could bring unnecessary attention to the university and its football program. And I don't want anything to happen to the university. Hell, my wife is a professor here, and I know that this institution is the heart of this wonderful city. But all this crap swirling around could lead to revelations that will make many politicians, wealthy alumni, and other interested parties very unhappy. The problem is, Coach," I continued, "if everything comes to light, if there's a scandal, Coach Harlan and Speedy Gonzalez will put all the blame on you. They, together with Agent Farrell, are already paving the way for this, preparing you for the role of a scapegoat, especially in the matter of illegal substances." "Oh my God," Marshall muttered. "What should I do? Resign now? This will only make you look even more guilty in the eyes of the public, as if you were leaving to avoid responsibility," I said. No, but I have an idea, coach, if you are willing to help me with something. As our conversation came to an end, my phone rang. It was Tanya Perlman. "He'll be there in half an hour," I said. "Okay, guys, it's time to move out." We left through the same back door that Cindy and Marshall came in through. There were cars parked on the street. "Cindy, take the fake car home. I'll pick you up tomorrow morning. Thanks for your work today." "No problem," she replied. She pulled back and disappeared into the darkness, and the tail of my police SUV appeared at the end of the building. Marshall and I walked towards him. "Okay, coach," I said. "Sit in the back seat, and you may have to lie down for a while." I drove along the side wall of the town fitness centers. It wasn't a road, but more of a narrow passage. There was a fire escape above me, leading to the door next to Melina's office. As I pulled into the parking lot, I saw what I expected: a black car across the street, parked in the grass near the gravel driveway, as if trying to hide. I pulled to the edge of the parking lot, then turned on the blue strobe lights and the bright spotlight mounted on the driver's door. Pointing the beam at the car, I saw two men squinting from the bright light. As I pulled out onto the road, I shouted, "Good night, SBI." Then I turned off all the lights and drove towards the city. "Are you always so defiant?" Coach Marshall asked as he lay in the back seat of the SUV. "Ah, Coach, you wouldn't like it any other way," I replied with a grin. "I think it was SBI, but at the same time they knew exactly what to do in this situation," Tanya said. "Very good, professional driver." Tanya and Pete were sitting in my office at headquarters, which looked as cramped as it felt. "I would also say it's SBI," I answered, "but they don't have combat driving courses or special training for agents." Meanwhile, one of their cars was watching the sports center, and I illuminated them a little with my spotlight recently. They are watching us very closely. "For what?" asked Philly. "Tanya." I looked at her. "Obviously, they want to make sure we don't do anything related to Jackson's death," Tanya said. "But what a colossal waste of resources." "Exactly." "Very good," I nodded. Seeing their interested looks, I explained. "They are conducting surveillance on us, but they will write it off as an investigation into the Jackson case. In fact, this is just a cover for their inaction in this matter. Not a bad move. Okay, Tanya, tell me about the results of the analysis from the university laboratory. The same substances that we found, but in slightly larger quantities, within the limits of permissible deviations, but they exist. The third drug is some kind of amplifier. This is something stronger, similar to the drugs that are illegally given to horses at races to get them going before the race." Interesting, I thought. "Okay, look." I picked up the phone and called the local newspaper printing office. "Town County Examiner." "Hey, Julie, this is Walter from KXTC, I said, pretending to have a light, sing-song voice as if I were gay. I have done this more than once with Julie. She was sure that I worked on television. "Just wondering what your big news will be tomorrow." "Oh my God, you're kidding." "Really? Do they know that already?" "I'll have to tell the bosses." "Thanks, Julie." "Won't she find out who called?" Tanya asked. "It will show blocked," I answered. KXTCS phones also hide numbers. "And why did you do this?" asked Pete Feely. "To find out what I just found out. Examiner tomorrow morning will print that the SBI crime lab found no traces of illegal substances in Jeff Jackson's blood." Tanya looked shocked, and Pete silently digested what he heard. "Okay, guys, go home, get some sleep, or have sex." Then I noticed how Tanya and Pete secretly glanced at each other. "Oh, okay, you're already doing this. Everything's clear with you. Get out of my office." Tanya burst out laughing, and Pete's face turned red. They walked out, and I smiled broadly. Everything will be just wonderful. To be continued. Subscribe to the channel and click on the bell so you don't miss the next part of this story. She will be there very soon. The link to the sequel will be in the description of this video below. Subscribe to our channel so that your love doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think click to the next one.